America will remain the anchor of strong alliances in every corner of the globe. And we will renew those institutions that extend our capacity to manage crisis abroad. For no one has a greater stake in a peaceful world than its most powerful nation. We will support democracy from Asia to Africa, from the Americas to the Middle East, because our interests and our conscience compel us to act on behalf of those who long for freedom.
You know, there are some, Charles, who say that the drone program is largely a program not about being aggressive after terrorists, but about not putting people in Guantanamo Bay, because they're not adding terrorists to Guantanamo Bay because they're killing them in the battlefield. And while they're taking the fight to the terrorists, there is no more detention of new terrorists.
Look, it seems to me as if the choice of the drone policy, which is the spear and probably the entire content of his global war on terror, even though he won't use the word, is a way to keep the problem at bay. It does something. It kills their leadership, disrupts them, slows them down. But as you say, you're not capturing anybody. You're not gathering intelligence as was done for the decade before. And it's a way of not engaging on the ground. I think it's a reasonable way to approach the problem if, as Obama thinks, and I think this was the message of the part of the State of the inaugural address he gave yesterday, he wants to keep the world at bay. He doesn't have a foreign policy. There's nothing coherent about it. It seemed, by just the size of the part of the speech about foreign affairs was negligible. There was nothing in it except for the error, the peace in our time, which I have to assume was sheer ignorance, because otherwise it's perverse. But there was nothing in it. The phrase you showed him saying, we're going to defend those who are fighting on behalf of democracy because it's in our interest and our conscience. Well, what about Syria? What about in Mali? In Mali, his administration can't even decide to support the French who are out there with stuff, just logistics, with drone intelligence. I think his idea is he needs to reform America. He said this. We want to rebuild the nation at home. We don't want to go abroad. It's not a policy of retreat because retreat is too coherent an idea. It's a policy of receding, doing everything in domestic, ignoring the world, keeping it at bay, and hoping that nothing will happen. I think they'll ask her, what did you know and when did you know it about the inadequate security? Where were you during the attack? What was the president saying? And they're going to ask one question that nobody in the press is asking. Where are the embassy personnel who were at the scene, who were flown out, who were unhurt, who know and can say what happened, and who have not even been named by the State Department? And why aren't they allowed to speak to the American people and to the Congress?
Almost no one in the press.
Well, of course, because I exclude us as standing above the press.
Today is the 40th anniversary of Roe v. Wade, and we are using this ad to bring attention to the fact that it's time to draw the line.
Oh, hey, baby. Did you think I forgot? I didn't forget. How could I ever forget our anniversary? All these years, so many people said we'd never make it. They've been trying to tear us apart, take you away, put limits on you, on me, on us.
Over the last 2 years since the midterm elections of 2010, Americans United for Life is the legal arm of the pro-life movement. We've seen 50 bills that we've been involved in that are pro-life legislation passed into law.
This is the 40th anniversary of the U.S. Supreme Court opinion, Roe v. Wade, 40 years ago. And pro-life groups are out with ads as well. This one is on a website. It details the number of abortions since 1973, and that number actually is at the bottom of the page, 54,559. I'm sorry, 54,559,615, I should say. We're back with our panel. This is obviously leading up to a big fight. There have been statewide efforts, Charles, this administration is committed to pro-choice. Where do you see this standing right now?
Well, what's interesting is that unlike the other social issues, like legalization of drugs or gay rights, abortion is one where the pro-abortion side, the liberal side, is not the wave of the future. And what's interesting is that if you look at the opinions of the younger generation, they are more pro-life than others in the other age range, which is, again, surprising and different from the other social issues. So I think it is one that will remain in contention for generations. And the lesson here, especially for the gay rights legislation that the court is going to look at, do not repeat Roe. Roe happened at a time when there was a rapid social change. Ronald Reagan had signed the most liberal abortion law in the country. The major states were changing, liberalizing, and this put a stop to all of that. It decreed a liberal success long before it was generally in the culture, and it created all this social tension. Let the people work it out in the states, in referenda, but not to do it by a decree on high. I hope that the court has learned that lesson and won't do the same with gay issues as well.
This has been a Sunfish production.